My name is Adam Cox. I am a phobia specialist, also known as the Phobia Guru, because of my ability to help people eliminate their phobias in just a single session. Now, entomophobia is the fear of insects. Now, the fear of insects can involve insects in general, so things that fly or move around like ants and things like that, cockroaches, or it can also be specific to a particular type of insect. So some people have a fear of, let's say, insects that can sting, for example, like wasps and bees. Other people might have a fear of insects that flutter, like moths or butterflies. For other people, it might be the kind of crawly kind of insects that tend to go on the floor, like cockroaches, for example, ants and things like that. The key thing to entomophobia, the fear of insects, is normally how it moves and what it looks like. They're the two key things that make it consistent. And most people that have entomophobia have had an instance where something that wasn't quite their phobia got mistaken for it. So, for example, if someone has a fear of butterflies, then actually, if there was, let's say, something like a bit of washing blowing in the wind just out the corner of their eye, they might mistaken that for a butterfly and then have exactly the same symptoms and reactions as if it was a real insect, a real butterfly. And the same could be said for lots of other things. Now, it's not quite as popular and prevalent as arachnophobia. So entomophobia is actually less frequent than fear of spiders, fear of snakes, and fear of dogs. But after that is one of the most popular animal phobias that exists, because of course there are so many types of insects around. You know, I think there are hundreds of insects for every single human. There could even be more. So we are surrounded by insects, and that's why it's such a challenging phobia for those people that have this particular fear. What can start off with a fear of a specific type of insect over time can generalize to include more types of insects. How people get entomophobia, this fear of insects, is either from a family member that they grew up with when they were a child and they learned to have this fear, or it could be a sensitizing event. That might be, for example, being stung by an insect, such as a bee or a wasp, or it could even be one of those ants, biting ants, for example. Or it may be being surprised by being in close proximity because insects can kind of creep out of nowhere, and they are unusual looking animals. They are not mammalian looking animals. They don't have the kind of the two eyes, the facial features, and therefore they look slightly eerie or unusual, particularly to a child. Now, because some insects can be poisonous or bite, there is an element of risk or threat attached to some insects. Now, if you were a child, the sensitizing event may not even be a bite or a sting. It could simply be that some insect unexpectedly enters your close proximity, and because you can't evaluate whether or not it's a threat or not, your instant reaction might be fear and to run away. The phobia then becomes generalized to anything that is like that particular insect, and that's how it becomes generalized. Now, this fear of insects can last a whole lifetime, but equally it can be eliminated very, very quickly. The kind of symptoms that people have, first and foremost, a coping strategy that people typically will have if they have a fear of certain types of insects is to avoid locations where that insect is more likely to be the case. So if it is, for example, the kind of insects that like flowers, they will avoid gardens or parks with lots of flowers. If it's certain insects like cockroaches, for example, they might avoid traveling to countries where there is a higher probability of cockroaches being there. Now, in certain countries, cockroaches are very, very prevalent, and therefore it can be very restrictive for those individuals, and they just avoid certain parts of the planet and they never ever visit them. So avoidance is one key thing to look out for. Having a feeling of discomfort, having the physiological symptoms where you have, not of your choosing, but an elevated heart rate, faster breathing, feelings of kind of muscle tension, that feeling of dread right there in the gut, in the pit of the stomach. All these things are clues, and they can lead to quite severe panic attacks, where there is a feeling of such dread and overwhelm that people struggle to breathe, and they can sometimes faint, and it's just an awful, awful feeling. The good news, though, is that a fear of insects can be eliminated in just a single session, and I've done this with many, many clients. So if you do have a fear of insects, the first thing that you absolutely need to know is that this isn't a fear that you have to continue living with. And if you are interested, on my website, phobiaguru.com, there is the ability for you to download a video completely free just by giving your name and email address, and you get instant access to a video that's about an hour long, giving detailed descriptions on what phobias are, how they work, why you have them, and how they can be eliminated. Now, when people choose to work with me, there tends to be 3 key ways that I will work with a client to eliminate their phobias. Now, the first is a one-to-one client session where someone will actually meet with me, normally in my clinic in Harley Street in central London, and normally in about 1 or 2 sessions. By using certain techniques that you will learn about in that free video that I mentioned, we can eliminate the phobia in just 1 or 2 sessions, and it will never come back. The second is that quite often I work with people based in different parts of the world that can't easily access and visit me in London. So for these people, I tend to use things like Skype and FaceTime so that I can use good quality cameras, good quality microphones, so that I'm able to use the same techniques I would face to face without physically being there. And that's quite a useful way for people to work with me if they can't get to London or, in fact, the UK. And the third way is that I've actually created, from helping hundreds of people eliminate their phobias, I've actually created a 7-day system, which means that over those 7 days, through a combination of videos and a combination of audio downloads, some of which involve hypnotherapy, some of which involve certain techniques like cognitive behavioral therapy or neurolinguistic programming, it's possible just by doing that course and not physically working with me, but actually going through the actual 7 days to eliminate that phobia just by downloading the content from the website phobiaguru.com. But to begin with, it's definitely worth getting that free video. That's at phobiaguru.com, just to learn more about your phobia and to learn how quickly it's possible to eliminate that fear.